Chatbots and virtual assistants are an emerging trend. And think of it this way. A chatbot is a channel. A chatbot is a channel, and it needs the information. And I've asked the question of vendors before, so where do you get the content? Where do you get the data? How do you configure this? And they say, oh, the customer has a knowledge base. Really? The customer has a knowledge base. Talk about making assumptions. There's a joke about assumptions, and it has to do with economists, because economists make assumptions, right? And they're sometimes unrealistic. And there's an economist, a chemical engineer, and a mechanical engineer on an island, and they have a container of food, and they don't have something to get the food out to open it up. And so the mechanical engineer comes up with something with coconuts, and he's going to break it open, and the chemical engineer comes up with, something that's going to use seawater and salt and erode through, and the economist says, assume a can opener. That's assuming a can opener. When you say you have a knowledge base, when the vendor says, oh, the customer has a knowledge base, that's assuming a can opener. You can't assume a can opener in these situations. You have to build it. You have to create it. Here's the important thing to think about. What you're really doing is you are leveraging the assets that you have today and preparing them for the technologies that are emerging, right? When there are organizations that are saying, we don't need to do this, we're going to get AI, or the technology is not going to matter, or the technology is going to do it, the content doesn't matter, the machine learning algorithms will fix this. No, they will not, right? They will not, and you will have to do this later. There's an organization, it was a publisher, and basically what they did was they had a K through 12, they were a leader in the K through 12 space, and those textbooks are very custom, very difficult to create because you have to get all the requirements, all the locations are different, and the jurisdictions and the levels. They try to do Common Core, but still, they're very custom. And it takes a long time to do this, and their competitor was beating them to the market by 6 months. And they're like, how are they doing this? It turned out they had a component authoring database, which had about 1 million objects, and they were assembling these. It wasn't a finished product, but it was enough for an editor to be able to put it together. They were assembling these textbooks very dynamically by pulling pieces from existing content. And when the CEO said, why aren't we doing this? We have to do this now. Great. No, that was the project you killed 3 years ago. And guess what? It's going to take 3 years to get there. And guess what? They lost the market, and the business was sold, and the CEO lost his job. So there are career making and breaking decisions that people have to make now. I like to say that the ontology is the soul of the business, right? It contains knowledge. It contains knowledge about processes, about your problems, about your products, about your services. The ontology is a knowledge structure, right? It's all the taxonomies and thesaurus structures that describe the domain of knowledge. So for a life sciences firm, it would be chemical pathways and biological compounds and mechanisms of action and diseases and indications and so on. For an insurance company, it's risks and regions and products and services and people and document types, all of those things, all those organizing principles. And then there's relationships between them, associated relationships, risks for a region, products for a service for a product, products for a solution, right? All of those relationships embody knowledge of the organization and its processes. So you're actually building an ontology which captures the knowledge of the organization, and then it becomes an overlay, and you can put that on any information source and then start to surface that information. And you can use these tools. These tools do help, absolutely, but you have to be realistic and you have to apply them correctly. So I like to say it speeds up the information metabolism of the organization because it makes everybody get their answers more quickly. Right? It helps people get the right information. It helps to personalize and contextualize, and it prevents people from having to recreate. What happens when we don't have good organizing principles, we don't have good content, or we can't find it. When search sucks, or everything sucks. You're slowed down by these little points of friction all the time. Every person in the organization is impeded just a little bit, or maybe a lot. And when you add that up, you're just slowing that whole, it's all about information flow, right? All you're creating, everything you create in your business is information, really. Even if you think about, what's this? Oil, sand, metal, all very cleverly arranged, right? I mean, it's all information. So all you're doing is creating information and with information, and the flow of that information is how you get products to market and how you solve problems. So when it does not flow, you're not competitive, you're not agile. And you know, we were doing a project for a company a couple of years ago. I saw one of the folks at a conference, they said, oh yeah, we should have moved forward. It would have been much cheaper if we did that then. The CIO lost his job because the project failed. You know, when people are not investing in these foundational pieces, the projects will fail. You know, you can't get by without them. Or it'll be, you know, you're doing an upgrade and you have newer technology over crappy content, right? You have the latest technology for all your crap.